Hi, in this video, we'll write a program that will recursively implement the Towers of Hanoi game. What is the game all about? The rules are as follows. There are three rods. Let's call them source, temp for temporary, and target, counting from left to right. There are some disks on the source rod. There may be any number of disks, but in our example, we'll have just three to keep things simple. They are stacked on top of one another in descending order, so the largest disk is at the bottom and the smallest is at the top, like in the following image. The goal of the game is to move the tower of disks to the target rod, the one on the right, but you have to obey the following rules. You can move only one disk at a time. You can only move a disk from the top. You can put the disk on an empty rod or on another disk on another rod, but only if the disk you're moving is smaller than the one you want to put it on. The minimum number of moves necessary to move the whole tower from the source rod to the target rod can be calculated as 2 to the power of n minus 1, where n is the number of disks. So, if there is only one disk, you need just 2 to the power of 1 minus 1, which equals 1 move. If there are two disks, you need 2 to the power of 2 minus 1, which equals 3 moves. In our case, with 3 disks, the minimum number of moves is 2 to the power of 3 minus 1, which equals 7. Here's how you can move the disks from source to target in 7 moves. Here we have a tower of 3 disks, but there is a general rule that applies to any tower with any number of disks. If the tower consists of n disks, we should move a tower of n-1 disks, so all the disks except the largest one at the bottom, from source to temp. This leaves us with the largest ring on the source rod. Then we move the largest disk to the target rod. Finally, we have to move the tower of n-1 disks from temp to target. As you can see, we have a good candidate for a recursive function here. Our base case will be when the number of disks is equal to 0. Our recursive case is if the number of disks is greater than 0. And here's the code. TO8 stands for Towers of Hanoi. And here are the parameters: n, source, temp, target. N is the number of disks, and source, temp, and target are the 3 rods. Now here's our test base case. The number of disks is greater than 0. So, recursively move a tower of n-1 disks to temp. To of n-1, source, target, temp. Then move the largest disk from source to target. So we can use the pop function to remove an element from the source. Then we can use append to append an element to target. And we can print the following message. Moving disk from source, here's a name, to target, and here's a name. Then recursively move the tower of n-1 disks from temp to target. So to n-1, temp, source, target. So with our function in place, let's test it. Our 3 rods, source, temp, and target, are implemented as dictionaries. Each dictionary has 2 keys and 2 values. The keys are disks and name. The 3 names are source, temp, and target. Now, on the first rod, source, we have 3 disks, disk 1, 2, and 3. The temp and target rods are empty for now. Now, before the game, before we use the function defined here, let's print the disks that are now on each of the 3 rods. So source, temp, and target. As we know, now there are 3 disks on source, and there are no disks on temp and no disks on target. And now let's call the targ function with n set to the number of disks on the first source rod. There are 3 disks here, so n is equal to 3. And here are our rods, source, temp, and target. Now this function moves all the disks from source to target. As we know, there are 7 moves, and our function here prints all the movements for us, so that we can see which disk is moved from which rod to which rod. And then finally, we'll print again our source, temp, and target rods, but this time, after the game, the source and temp rods should be empty, and our target rod should contain all the original 3 disks. So let's run this program now. Fine. Here's the output. Before the game, source, disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, as expected. Temp and target empty. Now here are the movements. Moving disk 3 from source to target. Moving disk 2 from source to temp. Moving disk 3 from target to temp. Moving disk 1 from source to target. Moving disk 3 from temp to source. Moving disk 2 from temp to target. Moving disk 3 from source to target. And now after the game. Now the source is empty, temp is empty, and the 3 disks, disk 1, 2, and 3, are now on the target rod. Now if you want, you can play with the program and run it for towers consisting of more disks. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like it, a thumbs up would be great. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos. If you want to leave a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do so. Thanks for watching.